Punchinello, Volume 1, No. 10, the 4th of June, 1870 **** Punchinello, Volume 1, Number 1001.jpg, 234K, Punchinello, Volume I, Issue 10 Saturday, the 4th of June, 1870. Published by the Punchinello Publishing Company, 83 Nassau Street, New York. 02.jpg, 260K, A Consistent League. Immediately upon McFarland's acquittal, the Union League of Philadelphia determined to give a grand ball. And they did it. And, what is more, they intend to do it every time the majesty of any kind of union is vindicated. Except, of course, the union of the iron interest and the public good. One of the most valuable and instructive features of this ball was the grand opportunity it offered to the members of the League to show their respect and affection for the spirit of the 15th Amendment. Accordingly, they invited a large number of colored ladies and gentlemen, and the accursed spirit of caste was completely exorcised by the exercises of the evening. The halls were grandly decorated with blackberry and gooseberry bushes, and other rare plants. Sumptuous fountains squirted high great streams of XX ale and gin and milk. Enormous piles of panned oysters, lobster salad, charlotte russe, and rice pudding blocked up half the doorways, while within the dancing hall the merriment was kept up grandly. The ball was opened by a grand cross-match waltz in which Honorable Morton McMichael and Mrs. Dinah J.N., George H. Boker and Miss Chloe P.T.N., William D. Kelly and Auntie D.I. Lou Vian, Abori and Miss E.G.N., General Tyndale and Miss May Ortai, and several other distinguished couples twirled their fantastic toes in the most reckless abandon. Virginia reels, Ole Kentucky breakdowns, and other characteristic dances diversified the ordinary Terpsichorean program, and the dancing was kept up to a late hour. It was truly gratifying to every consistent supporter of the enfranchisement of the African race, to see such gentlemen as Senator Revels, Frederick Douglass, Mr. Purvis, and other prominent colored citizens, in the halls of this patriotic and thoroughly American society. The members of the League were evidently of the opinion that it would be a most flagrant shame, on an occasion of this kind, for them to deny to their colored fellow citizens the rights and privileges that they are so anxious shall be accorded them by everyone else, and, while they do not believe that they are bound to invite anyone black or white to their private reunions on account of political considerations, they do not attempt to deny that, on an occasion of this kind, a celebration in fact of the success of a political party, it would be most shameful to ostracize the very citizens for whom that party lay bought and conquered. Therefore it was that they so warmly welcomed, within their gorgeous halls, their colored fellow citizens, and by so doing won for themselves the approbation of every consistent American. It was one of the most affecting sights of the evening to see these gentlemen of the League, nobly trampling under their feet all base considerations of color and caste, and walking arm in arm with their colored sisters, smelling the exotics, admiring the groups of statuary, sipping the coffee and the punch, pricing the crimson curtains, inhaling the perfumes from the Cologne water fountains, ascending and descending the grand walnut staircase, arranged for this occasion only, listening to the birds in the conservatories, and fixing their hair in the magnificent dressing rooms. When, in the midst of the festivities, the band struck up the beautiful air, "Ask Me No More," the honored guests of color looked at each other with pleasant smiles which seemed to denote a perfect satisfaction. And so, whatever may be said of the friends of the colored race in other parts of the country, it must be universally admitted that the Union League of Philadelphia has done its duty. Good reading for Topus. Mr. Greeley's Recollections of a Boozy Life. Sporting Intelligence. A newspaper item says that a Mexican offers to shoot Juarez for $200. That's nothing. Taylor, of Jersey City, offers to shoot any man in the world for $2,000. The favorite drink of the Canadian government. Cabinet whiskey. Entered, according to Act of Congress, in the year 1870, by the Punchinello Publishing Company, in the Clerk's Office of the District Court of the United States, for the Southern District of New York. 03.jpg, 74K. The public still labor under misapprehensions of our character and calling. We are in daily receipt of letters of the most heterogeneous description, the task of answering which we are compelled to utterly forego. We subjoin a few specimens. Mr. Punchinello. Dear Sir, my wife died yesterday, and would you be so kind as to come and make her will? I would not give you the trouble of coming, but the young woman I intend to marry next is going away tomorrow, and I don't want to leave home. My wife had $500 which I want left to me, and a feather bed, which you may divide amongst the children. Yours in affliction, Solomon Snip. Sir, I calculate to give a funeral down at my place shortly, that is, if things go right, but we have no preacher to do the work. Would you please to send us one? Not particular what kind, so long as the work is sure. Party is not dead yet, but I make arrangements beforehand as I expect to be insane. Good pay for good work. Sincerely, P. McFinnigan. P.S. Do preachers warrant their burials? Dear Mr. Punchinello, you were so good as to prescribe a hot pitch plaster for the baby's mouth. Next day I took the prescription to your office, but failed to get it made up, as the devil, they told me, was busy. Will you please inform me when you will be at leisure? Meanwhile baby yells. Yours truly, C. Pugsby. P.S. Later. Mrs. Pugsby says if I apply that plaster she will go insane. True, she does not understand firearms, but then I should be afraid to drink any coffee for a month. In the meantime, if the baby keeps on, I shall go crazy myself, so there is likely to be a casualty somewhere. What's to be done? Shall I bring the child to you? C.P. Answer. At your peril. Go crazy and shoot it, then we will go crazy and turn counsel for the defense. The result will probably be that you are handed over to the ladies to be kissed into reason, but if you would rather be hung, you must do the shooting over in New Jersey. beautiful snow. Circumstances having rendered it probable that the dispute respecting the authorship of the poem Beautiful Snow may shortly be revived, Punchinello takes this opportunity of setting the public right on the subject, and silencing further controversy regarding it forever. It is the production of Mr. Punchinello, himself, was composed by him so long ago as July 1780, and copyrighted in August of the same year. It may be asked how the idea of snowflakes happened to occur to him in July. That question is easily settled. The day was sultry, thermometer 98 degrees in the arbor. Drowsed by the sultry air, not to mention the iced claret, Mr. Punchinello posed himself gracefully upon a rustic bench, and slept. Presently the lovely lady who was fanning him, fascinated by the trumpet tones that proceeded from his nose, exclaimed, "Beautiful snore!" This was repeated to him when he awoke, and hence the origin of the poem. Fish culture. The Grand Duke Alexis, of Russia, proposes to come to these shores and inspect the American system of fish culture. With this end in view, he will, of course, be the particular guest of General Grant, and will, no doubt, be surprised to find that our principal fish is a cultivated man. But he will better understand our fish system by witnessing its operations in Spanish and Canadian waters, as also in those of Sault Ste. Marie. Lindsay will see. The regular troops for the Canadian Red River expedition have been supplied by General Lindsay, and are commanded by Colonel Wolseley, a fact oddly coincidental with the reported flimsy character of the expedition, so far as it has gone. 04.jpg, 155K, Bivalvular Intelligence. It is stated that the clams along the Stratford shore are dying by thousands of a malignant disease, which a correspondent of the Bridgeport Standard calls clam cholera. This is a sad calamity for the people of the Stratford shore. The 15th Amendment. The appointment of colored postmasters in Maryland may be all very well, but Punchinello would like to know whether the post office authorities intend to revive the custom of blackmailing. The plays and shows. 05.jpg, 75K, comedy personified, in Mr. Clark, has now reigned at Boothers for nearly 6 weeks. During that time there has been a perceptible change in the metaphorical atmosphere of the house. The audience no longer wears the look of subdued melancholy which was once involuntarily assumed by each mourner for the memory of Shakespeare, who passed the solemn threshold. The ushers no longer find it necessary to sustain their depressed spirits by the surreptitious chewing of the quid of consolation, and are now the most pleasant, as they were always the most courteous, of their kind. Persons have even been heard, within the past week, to allude to Boothers as a theatre instead of a temple of art, and though the convulsions of nature which attend the shifting of the scenery, and cause castles to be violently thrown up by volcanic eruptions and forests to be suddenly swallowed by gaping earthquakes, impart a certain solemnity to the brightest of comedies, still there is a general impression among the audience that Boothers has become a place of amusement. And in noting this change, Punchinello does not mean to jeer at the former and normal character of Boothers. Beethoven's Seventh Symphony, Dante's Inferno, Jefferson's Rip Van Winkle, and Edwin Booth's Hamlet are not amusing, but it does not follow that they are therefore unworthy of the attention of the public, which is pleased with the rattle of de boots, and tickled with the straw of Toodles. Fox vs. Goose is a three-act comedy in which Mr. Clark last week made his audience laugh as freely as though the tombstones of all the Capulets were not gleaming white and awful in the lamplight of the property room, or, at all events, would be gleaming if anybody were to hunt them up with a practicable lantern. The opening scene is the taproom of an inn, where Mr. Fox Fowler, an adventurer, is taking his ease and his unpaid for gin and milk. Enter landlord, presenting his bill. "Here, sir, you've been drinking my beer for several years, and now I want you to pay for it." Fox: "My friend, why ask me to pay bills? Do you not perceive that I wear a velvet coat? And, besides, even if I wanted to pay I could not until my baggage, which I gave to an expressman 10 years ago, shall reach me. It will probably arrive in a month or two more." Landlord: "Here comes Sir Gander Gosling. I'll complain to him of your conduct." Enter Sir Gander. Fox: "My dear Sir Gander, allow me to embrace you." Sir Gander: "I don't know you. I'm not my son Jack." Fox: "But I am Jack's dearest friend. I have saved him from drowning, from matrimony, from reading The Nation, from mothers-in-law, and all other calamities mentioned in the litany." Sir Gander: "Describe him to me, if you know him so well." Fox: "He is tall, dark, slender, and quiet in manner." Sir Gander: "My dear fellow, he is short, fat, light, and noisy. I am convinced that you know him. Permit me to pay your bill, lend you money, and tell you all about our dear Jack's intended marriage." He pays, lends, and narrates accordingly. A terrific rattling of dishpans simulates the arrival of a train. Sir Gander departs and Jack Gosling enters. Fox: "My dear Jack, allow me to embrace you." Jack: "I don't know you. I'm not my father." Fox: "But I am your father's dearest friend. Sit down and have a bottle of wine, and tell me all about Rose Mandrake, your intense bride." Rose. Rose. The coal-black rose, as Milton finely remarks. They sit down and Jack immediately gets very drunk, thereby affording another proof of the horribly adulterated condition of the liquor used on the stage, which infallibly intoxicates an actor within 2 minutes after it is imbibed. Let the excise authorities see to this matter. Finally Jack falls, and the curtain immediately follows his example. Critical young man, who reads all the theatrical notices in the Herald in the leisure moments when he is not selling yards of tape and ribbon. I don't think much of Clark. He ain't half the man that Ned Forrest is. There ain't a bit of spontaneous humor in him. Them San Francisco minstrels can beat him out of sight. accompanying young female person. Yes, I think so, too. I hate to see a man act drunk. It's so low and vulgar. I like pretty plays, like they have at Warlock's. Respectable old gentlemen. Placide Blakebert and everybody else. Well, this is real humor. I haven't laughed so much since I heard Beecher preach a funeral sermon. The second act takes place in the house of Major Mandrake. Fox has successfully assumed the character of Jack Gosling, and is having a pleasant chat with the family, when the gardener enters to inform the Major that a flock of crows is in sight. Major Mandrake. I love the pleasures of the chase. Bring my gun, and I will shoot the crows. He goes out, and shoots Jack, who is climbing over the gate. Re-enter Major and men carrying Jack. Major. Alas! I have missed the crow over the cornfield, and lost the crow over my shooting which I would otherwise have had. Also I have shot a man out of season, and the Sportsman's Club will prosecute me. Jack. I am not dead, though my appearance and conversation might induce you to think so. My name is Jack Gosling. The chap in the velvet coat is an impostor. Major, Fox, and other dramatis persons. Away with the wretch. He himself is the impostor. Call a policeman who will club him if he makes no resistance. Jack is dragged away, but perpetually returns and denounces his rival. He is bitten by supposititious dogs cunningly simulated by stage carpenters, who remark "bow wow" from behind the scenes. He is cut by Rose Mandrake, and also by rows of broken bottles, which line the top of the wall on which he makes a perilous perch, not having a pole or rod with which to defend himself against the dogs. He is challenged by Fox and seconded by Miss Blanche Barr in naval uniform. Finally he takes refuge in the china closet, and hurls cheap plates and saucers at his foes. With the exhaustion of the supply of crockery, the act naturally comes to an end, and, as frequently occurs in similar cases, the curtain falls. Comic Man. Why does Clark, when he slings china at the company, remind you of the Paraguayan War? Of course you give it up. Because he carries on a war on the plate. Do you see it? Crockery plates and the River Plate, you know. Ha! Ha! And two ushers, reinforced by a special policeman, drag the miserable man away, and lead him to McGonagall's private room, there to be dealt with for the hideous crime of making infamous jokes in Booth's theatre. He is never seen again, and so the Philadelphia day loses its brightest ornament. The third act consists of a duel between Jack and Fox, each of whom is too cowardly to fight. They therefore follow the safer example of rival editors, and swear and scold at each other. At last a small millennium of universal reconciliation takes place, and the usual old comedy tag ends the play. Parenthetically, why tag? Does it receive this name because its invariable stupidity suggests those other worthless commodities rag and bobtail which, outside of theatres, are generally associated with the name? and everybody goes away murmuring of the genial humor of Clark, the magical violin of Mollenhauer, the elegance, convenience and comfort of the theatre, the matchless memory of Booth's Hamlet and Iago, and the golden certainty of the coming of Rip Van Winkle. And everybody is supremely satisfied, and says to everybody else, this theatre needs only a company, to be the foremost theatre of either continent. Matador. Remarks by our stammering contributor. The uptown theatrical sensation is, we hear, produced regardless of expense. We had reason to think that its managers would show more frugality. 06.jpg, 202k, Comic Zoology. The monkey tribe. Of this genus there are countless varieties, differing widely in the cut of their monkey jackets, as the untravelled American naturalist will doubtless have observed on traversing his native sidewalk. The educated specimens met with in our cities are upon the whole well organized, and appear to have music in their souls. For its feats apide, the tame monkey is indebted to a Piedmontese who accompanies him. To behold the monkey race in their glory, however, they must be seen in their native woods, where they dwell in genteel independence, enjoying their entailed estates and living on their own cocoa nuts. There will be found the gibbon, whose decline and fall when yielding the palm to some aspiring rival is swifter than that of the Roman Empire, the Barbary ape, so called from feeding exclusively on barberries, the chimpanzee, an African corruption of chimpanzee, the name given to the animal by his first European discoverers in compliment to his alertness, the baboon, a melancholy brute that, as you may observe from his visage, always has the blues, to say nothing of a legion of red monkeys, which are particularly rum customers. Some men of science have advanced the theory that man is the climactic consequence of innumerable improvements of the monkey, the Negro as he now exists being the result of the 15th Amendment. These philosophers erect a sort of pyramid of progress, placing an ape at the base and a Caucasian at the apex. This wild hypothesis of a monkey apotheosis can of course only be regarded jocularly, in other words, with a grin. Nevertheless, the marmoset is sufficiently like a little Frenchwoman to be called a mademoiselle, and there are, in New Zealand for instance, a human heathen with a craving for the divine, to whom the gorilla, though not a man, is certainly a brother. Possibly the orang-outang, if able to express his thoughts in an harangue, might say with Mr. Dickens, "I am very human." He certainly looks it. There is a strong facial resemblance among the simious races, Simia similibus. This likeness does not, however, extend in all cases to the opposite extremity. Some monkeys have no tails. Of the tailless apes it is said that they originally erased their rear appendages by too much sitting, perhaps as members of the rump in some anthropoid congress. Be that as it may, the varieties that have retained their tails seem disposed to hang on to them, and will doubtless continue to do so by hook or by crook. The natives of Africa believe that the monkeys would converse with them if they were not afraid of being set to work, but it is quite apparent that they are not averse either to labor or conversation, inasmuch as among themselves they frequently mow and chatter. The Great African Tea Company. Mr. Punchinello, if I can induce you to take a few shares in the above-named company, at a merely nominal price, I assure you, I think I shall do you a very great favor, and at the same time secure to the company the benefit of your enormous influence. The grand points, in this unequaled scheme, may be explained as follows. The tea is from the new African tea fields, that is the holds of ships in which it has spoiled, or become musty, or lost its bouquet, and the old chests of the usual dealers, and is delivered in our warerooms for a mere song, so to speak, say the song of sixpence, a pound. At a small additional outlay, we dye and scour this tea, or otherwise renovate it to such an extent that nature herself would be deceived, at least till she began to sip the decoction from it, when, perhaps, she would conclude not to try any further issues with this company. These African tea fields, cultivated by ourselves, are situated near the Cape of Good Hope. From the recent appreciation of African interests, and, of course, technology, you will perceive that in our name and scheme is good hope indeed, for the stockholders, if not the tea drinkers. Our system of business embraces, in part, the following ingenious and strictly novel features. By means of circulars and extensive advertising we convince the public, an easy task, that, in consequence of raising the tea ourselves, from our own tea fields, and thus saving a great many profits to different absorbents of the people's money, we can afford it at ruinously low prices, yet the tea is always a one, which, in familiar language, might be construed as a wonder especially to the Chinese. We make a great variety out of the same stock. One may always know the greater company's tea from the circumstance of its never having either odor or flavor. We find, after ample experience, that the presence of either of these qualities directly injures the sale. Give it plenty of astringency, an easy knack, and it will be sure to go down in this country. It is our experience, and that of many other operators of our kind or upon our kind, if you prefer the phrase, that people like to be imposed upon, and can always be taken with the economical hook. If an article, of tea, for instance, is only cheap enough, it may be ever so nasty and unwholesome, and yet it will sell. Sell. Bless you. You can't produce it fast enough even from your own tea fields. We make an article of coffee, which we have almost decided to call coffee, that has as much color in 1 pound as the real, an inferior, article has in 6. Boarding house keepers praise it. It goes far, and is actually preferred to mocha. We sell it for less than the latter could be bought for at wholesale, in Arabia, and yet you will readily believe we make money by it. A few shares will be sold to you for a mere fraction of their nominal value. Call and see us, at the sign of the Great African Tea Co. TTT, for the company. Our Cuban telegrams. We are happy to inform our readers that we have made a special arrangement with the telegraph companies, by which we shall receive the only reliable news from Cuba. The following telegrams from Havana, which were received at this office at a late hour last night, will show how full and accurate our Cuban news will henceforth be. First dispatch. Havana, the 26th of May, 9 p.m. From a Cuban patriot. A great battle was fought yesterday between the National Army and the Spanish cutthroats. General Cespedes, with 500 men, attacked Valmeceda, who had 11,000 men in a strong position, and completely routed him. The invaders lost 10,000 in killed and wounded, and 900 prisoners. 20 pieces of artillery were captured. This blow will crush the Spanish brigands, and make certain the independence of the island. Our loss was trifling, only a drummer boy or two. Second dispatch. 9:30 p.m. From the Spanish authorities. A great battle was fought yesterday between the loyal army and the rebel hordes. General Valmeceda, with 500 men, attacked Cespedes, who had 11,000 men in a strong position, and completely routed him. The brigands lost 10,000 in killed and wounded, and 900 prisoners. 20 pieces of artillery were captured. This blow will crush the rebels, and make certain the establishment of order in the island. Our loss was trifling, only a sutler or two. Third dispatch. 10 p.m. From a Cuban patriot. Our victory was more complete than at first believed. Only 2 Spaniards escaped. Our only loss was 1 drummer boy slightly wounded. Fourth dispatch. 10:30 p.m. From the Spanish authorities. Our victory was more complete than was at first believed. Only 2 rebels escaped. Our only loss was 1 sutler somewhat demoralized. Fifth dispatch. 11 p.m. From a Cuban patriot. Cespedes had only 200 men, and Valmeceda 8,000. The latter is reported killed. The victory was complete. Sixth dispatch. 11:30 p.m. From the Spanish authorities. Valmeceda had only 200 men, and Cespedes 8,000. The latter is reported killed. The victory was complete. Seventh dispatch. 12 m. From a Cuban patriot. The battle was not so bloody as was at first reported. The patriots had 50 men, and were greatly outnumbered. Several dead Spaniards were left on the field. No artillery was captured, but a great quantity of supplies was taken. Eighth dispatch. 12:30 m. From the Spanish authorities. The battle was not so bloody as was at first reported. The loyal force consisted of only 50 men, and many dead rebels were left on the field. No artillery was captured, but a great quantity of bananas was taken. Ninth dispatch. 1 m. From a Cuban patriot. It is now known that the battle was only a skirmish. The Spaniards attacked our men in order to seize upon their extra linen. They were repulsed, however. 10th dispatch. 1:30 m. From the Spanish authorities. It is now known that the battle was only skirmish. The rebels attacked a hen roost in search of eggs, but were repulsed. 11th Dispatch 3.m. From a Cuban patriot. The rumor of a battle seems to have originated in a fight between a patriot and a mob of bloodthirsty Spaniards in an alley in this city. The latter managed to escape. 12th Dispatch 2:30 from the Spanish authorities. The rumor of a battle evidently grew out of a fight in an alley of this city, between a volunteer and a mob of rebel sympathizers. The latter were all arrested. 13th Dispatch 3.m. from the American Consul. Yesterday a Cuban boy threw a stone at a dog belonging to one of the volunteers. The dog ran away. All is quiet in the city, and elsewhere on the island. At this point we were compelled to go to press. The above dispatches, however, furnish the latest and only reliable intelligence from Cuba. 07.jpg, 170k, a good turn meant. There is some talk of reviving the tournament in this region, and the young men are expected to show their skill in riding at the ring. If our young men were to put any number of good sharp lances through a few of our city rings, they would be noble and chivalrous fellows, surely. The dumb beast's friend. Mr. Berg, the philologist, is an honest oracle in his way, and when he opes his mouth we hope no cur will be ungrateful enough to bark. He says in his last lecture that dumb animals are creatures like unto himself. That accounts for Mr. Berg being dear to the quadrupeds, and such a terrier to their enemies. Land and water. An ocean cable company has just asked Congress for a grant of lands. The request is natural, as the company, of course, wants to see its cable well landed. The Kellogg testimonial. Gifts should be seasonable. We therefore signify our highest approval of the judgment of those kind friends who lately gave to Miss Clara Louise Kellogg, our own beloved Nightingale, an elegant fruit receiver. Birds, as a rule, are prohibited by law from partaking of fruit, but that is only while it is on branches, and, perhaps, if Eve had only possessed an elegant fruit receiver she might have put the apple into it, instead of eating that most unfortunate pippin, so greatly to human distress and detriment. And, now that Miss Clara has such a beautiful article to hold them, we suggest that, at her next benefit, instead of the fading and comparatively worthless bouquets, she be presented with a bushel of the very best pippins, and we intend to do it. Latest about Garibaldi. It is stated, now, that Garibaldi, foiled in his attempts to join the Italian insurgents, is about to throw himself, sword in hand, among the Red River malcontents. This rumor has its origin, probably, in the fact that Garibaldi usually wears a red shirt. 08.jpg, 127k, Strider Dentium. The Massachusetts dentists, excellent men, not to be spoken of without a shudder, have been holding an annual meeting in Boston. They talked, discussed, suggested and explained, and then, to show that they were physicians who could heal themselves, they partook together of a most beautiful dinner. We are not told so, but we suppose that the viands on this occasion were of the very toughest description: geese of venerable age, fried heel tops, and beef like unto the beef of a boarding house. Whether, considering their facilities for mastication, a landlord should not charge the members of a dental association double, is a question for casuists. English News. It is noted, as a very remarkable fact, that the Member of Parliament for Sheffield first entered that town as an Italian image boy. He was the image of his mother. In the air. Voice at Rome. I am the infallible Pio Nunno. Echo, everywhere. No. No. Ancient inscription on the throne of Spain. Mt. The Robins. Compare a much more poetic effusion, under this head, in all the American newspapers. There's a screech upon the housetop, a creak upon the plain, it's a libel on the sunshine, it's a slander on the rain, and through my brain, in consequence, there darts a horrid thought of exasperating wheelbarrows, and signs, with torture fraught. So, all these breezy mornings through my teeth is poured the strain, confound the odious robins that have now come back again. They bring a thought of strawberries, which I shall never taste, plums, cherries, ditto, which these marauders waste who never will catch worms and flies, as smaller warblers do, but want precisely those nice things which grow for me and you. I muse on all their robberies, and mutter this fierce strain, confound these odious robins that have now come back again. Oh, bah! What bosh these poets write about this humbug pet. Firstly, they are not true robins but a base, inferior set. Second, there is no music in their creaking, croaking shriek. Third, they are slow and stupid common birds from tail to beak. Tease said, they come so early. Well, I'd rather they'd come late. They're simply made for pot pies, and deserve no better fate. Whoever thought to welcome the ingenious, sprightly wren, with his pretty, joyous carol, which should thrill the heart of men? Now that is music, mind you. And how small the throat that sings. Besides, he lets your fruit alone, and lives on other things. Inspired by this trim fairy, many souls will swell the strain, confound the odious robins that have now come back again. Caution. There is shortly to arrive in Paris a dwarf aged about 55 years, having a beard reaching to his feet, but with only one arm and a completely bald head. He possesses 2 million francs, which he is willing to share with any young girl about 20 years old, who is pretty and good-tempered. The person above alluded is, unquestionably, our eldest son, Mr. Punchinello, Jr. He is, we say it with many tears, as great a rascal as any in the world, although no child was ever flogged more regularly and affectionately. His conduct broke his mother's head, and he was put under bonds to keep the peace at the age of 2 years. After a long period of flagrant insubordination, he ran away with a part of our money, and of his plunder he may possibly have 2 million francs left, but we don't believe it. This is to warn all tradesmen in Paris from trusting him on our account, as we shall pay no debts of his contracting. 09.jpg, 298K, Condensed Congress. 10.jpg, 80K, Senate. Drake quacked according to his custom this time about the propriety of hanging people in the southern states. There were several people in Missouri whom he particularly desired to see extinguished. He referred to the fiends in human shape, whose hands were dripping with loyal gore, and whom the unrepentant rebels of his state actually desired to send to the Senate, in the place of himself. He lacked words to express his sense of so gross an outrage. He thought that he could be comparatively happy if 40,000 men were hanged or otherwise disabled from voting against him. That would make his re-election a pretty sure thing. Mr. Ferry said he really thought this thing had gone far enough. People were coming to understand that the General Run, he did not refer to Bull Run, of the Northern Army was just about as good, and no better, than the General Run, he did not refer to Gettysburg, of the Southern Army. As for Drake, he was a canard, and his statement was another. He did not approve of the bloody draconian code. Mr. Morton said Ferry was very easily crossed. As for him, he considered that Ferry was a copperhead. Mr. Revels was in favor of removing disabilities as soon as it could be done with safety. They all knew what he meant by safety. As soon as not only his calling, which was formerly clerical, although now legislative, and election were made sure, he was ready to let everybody vote. While his election was doubtful, he was in favor of keeping out votes enough to ensure it. He believed that to be the view of every senator. Here. Mr. Sawyer thought his opinion as good as Revels's, if he was white. He considered that he was safe in South Carolina, and he disapproved of the glut of Republican Southern senators. Upon these grounds he went for the removal of the disabilities. House. Mr. Dawes did a neat thing. He represented that the Naval Appropriation Bill contained a number of most nutritious jobs, as indeed it turned out that it did. Upon this hint Schenck agreed to let the tariff pass for the present, though he reserved the right to order it up at any time. Thereupon the astute Dawes moved to postpone it indefinitely, to the huge disgust of Mr. Schenck, who said he ought to be ashamed of himself. Here was the oyster pining for protection, the peanut absolutely shriveling on its stalk under the neglect of Congress, and the American hook and eye weeping for being overrun by the imported article. He hoped the pig iron, whose claims they had refused to consider, might lie heavy on their souls. Kelly was too full of pig iron for utterance. Spencerian chaff. By a confirmed Grahamite. If, in the opening of my learned friend, whose record I intend most handsomely and warmly to defend, you fancy that you now and then perceive a word or phrase one hardly can conceive was uttered by your leave, if going further in my supposition you fancy his condition in some respects was not above suspicion, if, there's virtue in, and if sometimes as there may be in crimes, you think it strange, what men will do for dimes, why, it is plainly due to you, and noble Spencer, too, that I should straightway boil with legal rage at such injustice, and at once engage to write the matter, on this virtuous page. I fear, my captious friend, to speak the truth, you do not comprehend the majesty of law. Of reason it is clearly the perfection. It is not merely jaw. Great heaven! Excuse the interjection, if for this thing you have no greater awe, you need correction. Pray, do you fully realize, good sir, the legal is a gentlemanly cur? True, we are sometimes forced to treat a judge as though he were a plain American. But, fudge! He never minds, he's not a gentleman. True, it is now and then our legal lot to teach a stupid witness what is what, or show that he, or she, is rather worse than he, or she, should be. We find it necessary, very, to blacken what we have no doubt is white, and whiten what is very black indeed. Agreed. But ask the client what he thinks is right. He may not care to see us fairly fight, it is not a pleasant sight, or hear us curse till all is black as night, for the whole jury might perchance take fright, but he knows whether he is ably served. Stern duty's line, he'll tell you, if he's bright, is always either angular or curved. Now, pray, no bosh about the habit of defending crime dulling the sensibilities in time. The theory won't wash. Once place my colleague on the other side, you'd say, this lawyer should be deified. Oh, what a conscience he would then reveal! Sinners would tremble at his dread appeal. You would perceive, at least, you would be ready to believe, that, noting all the most abhorred deeds known to our records, this affair must needs be judged the blackest. Nothing like, since Cain. And then, again but, pshaw! Coming to look at you, I see you're one of those odd folks who don't agree with anybody. You are not to pass on these high questions, plainly, you're an ass. I'd like to have you on the stand a minute. You'd think the deuce was in it. I'd shake the humdrums out of you, I guess. You'd presently confess you thought that no was yes. It's just your sort provided there's no hurry, we like to worry. In 20 minutes, sir, you wouldn't know your father from Jim Crow, or your illiterate self from Lindley Murray. And now then, dunce, please move your boots, at once. If 'twere not for some twinges of the gout, I'd kick you out. 11.jpg, 169K, our portfolio. Since gin and milk has been declared to be an uncanonical beverage, much uncertainty prevails among the brethren of the cloth as to what refreshment would be considered orthodox and proper. There is no doubt that some men are so constituted as to require fluid aids to religion. To deprive them of it would be to strike a blow at popular piety. As the laborer is worthy of his hire, so is the minister, whose throat becomes parched by reason of much exhortation, worthy of the liquid balm which is to renew his powers and strengthen his organs. Punchinello has had under consideration the question of inventing some drink which might happily satisfy the wants of the thirsty and avoid the scandal which gin and milk has created among the godly. Many correspondents have suggested to him various decoctions, but, as they all involved spirituous ingredients, he has felt compelled to reject them. After considerable trial, he flatters himself, however, that he has fallen upon a discovery which may remove every objection. It is very simple, and that of itself should be a strong recommendation. Take some raw potatoes, thoroughly extract the juice, mix with it about 3 ounces of horseradish, this to give it pungency. Flavor the same with any aromatic root to suit the taste, and then let the whole boil for 1 hour. After cooling, tightly bottle the mixture, and within 24 hours it will be fit for use. The process then will be to drink it in the same quantity that one would take either gin or whiskey, being careful to hold to the nose during the act of swallowing, a sponge well saturated with pure alcohol. Between the pungency communicated to the taste by the horseradish and the fumes of the spirit invading the nasal avenues, the illusion of a good square drink will be complete. An instance of singularly vitiated taste has just come to the knowledge of Punchinello. A caterer in Baxter Street provides juvenile bootblacks with the hind legs of rats, and declares that his guests eat them with great avidity and experience no ill effects. They are rolled in pulverized crackers, and cooked in lard. The dish is considered a great dainty, and is only within the reach of the aristocratic portions of that community. One chief cause of this culinary success is the fact that the provider keeps the knowledge of it to himself, going upon the French principle of eat what's put before you and ask no questions. Fried horse liver has risen to great popularity with Americans in Paris, owing to the adoption of a similar caution. Fastidious tourists have been known to smack their lips over horse tenderloin, under the impression that the peculiarity of its flavor was to be attributed entirely to the devices of a Parisian cuisine. This pleasant hypothesis has unquestionably prevented many a stomach from revolting, and increased the reputation of French cooks. It is related of the astronomer Lalande that he often ate caterpillars and spiders, affirming that the former tasted like almonds and the latter like walnuts, but no American who ever feasted inadvertently on horse liver or a savory sirloin of the same flesh, has yet been found to acknowledge the fact, much less to promote a taste for it by any seductive comparison. The Baxter Street purveyor imitates the Parisian restaurateur in the mystery with which he surrounds his art, and so both prosper. Answers to correspondence. Georgia. Mistaken. The columns of Punchinello are not for sale. If you want to buy editorial columns, you should apply to the managers of the Washington Chronicle. For tariff of rates, consult Governor Bullock of your state, who is thoroughly informed on the subject. Anxious Inquirer. Our story of the mystery of Mr. E. Drood will shortly be published in weekly parts, and it would be unfair to Mr. Dickens as well to Mr. Orpheus C. Kerr to tell you the mystery. Traveler. We believe that the streetcar conductors are obliged to pass a preliminary examination in packing herrings, before a car is given to them. Dramatical. Can you tell me the origin of the expression, "let's have a smile"? Meaning, of course, to take a drink. Yes, it is from Julius Caesar, where Cassius says to Brutus, "Farewell, Brutus. If we do meet again we'll smile, indeed." Act V, Scene 1. Hoyle. The old remark, "when in doubt play a trump," has fallen through, as, when in doubt, the player generally plays the deuce. Henry Jones. No. You are wrong. Sic semper tyrannis does not mean tyrants are always sick. Villikens. Mr. Horace Greeley, although an intimate personal friend of Weston, the pedestrian, is not, as you suppose, the compiler of Walker's dictionary. Cornet. The critic was wrong in attributing freshness to the air of walking down Broadway. If you walk down Broadway at this season you will find the air anything but fresh. Gin and milk. It is a mistake. Theodore Tilton never sang comic songs in a Houston street free and easy. Chutney. Somebody has been selling you. Babu Brahmin Chunder Sen is not a relation of Hans Christian Andersen. Sculp. Is it in your power to give the proportions of a perfect human figure? Answer. Your question implies a doubt of the genius of a great American sculptor. It is in our power. Look at his figure of the Greek slave. Richard III. My friends think that I have a decided talent for the stage. How can I be fitted for it? Answer. By a theatrical costumer. Pay great attention to measure for measure. Debret. Who were the knights companions of the bath? Answer. Towels and soap. 12.jpg, 141k. Tis true the empire's capital, the center of authority, went against me in a fit of red republican romance, but the provinces in rolling up their glorious majority have proved, despite of precedents, that Paris is not France. Self-contained and unembarrassed, I awaited at the Tuileries the issue, for I trusted the nation's common sense, and although the rowdy faubourgs tried a few of their tomfooleries, my soldiers soon let light into each trumpery defense. I smile in cold contempt at the old-time barricade tricks each street, did I so order, were a cannon swept defile, I've bound fortune to my chariot, and defying all her jade tricks, more in pity that in anger hear the roar of the cannel. The Drapier Rouge is down, Hugo. Blanc and Ledru rolling are as harmless as three kittens with their teeth and talons drawn, and now my own loved France, with returns from every pole in, I bid thee hail of liberty the true and genial dawn. Though the left's intemperate oracles, political and clerical, deny there's force or purpose in the people's mighty eye, they stultify their principles, for by ordeal numerical their creed declares all policy should either live or die. To France I said, my country, behold I freely tender thee all swords won for freedom in the ages long ago, all prerogatives that clash with it I offer to surrender thee, wilt take or spurn the guerdon? Prithee, answer yes or no. She has answered, France has answered, in thunderings articulate, from the Alps and either seaboard, to the Pyrenees, the Rhine, and though a horde of demagogues may bellow and gesticulate, they know this is a victory of the people's right divine. The Dominion again. What a set of grumblers the Canadians are! They seem never to be satisfied with their public men. First they were berating the Minister of Justice for too large a practice at the bar. Now they have turned their attention to the gentleman, Mr. Langevin, who is to engineer the domestic relations between the Confederate provinces, on the ground of looking after his own domestic relations first. Surely, this is factious opposition, as their Mr. Holton would say. Science forever. Mr. Punchinello is pleased to observe that there is to be a meeting of the Western Social Science Association in Chicago, and he hereby announces his intention of attending as a volunteer delegate. He will, if he is well treated by the convention, so that he may reach the elevation of soul necessary, read exhaustive and exhausting papers on the following subjects: 1. On the complete removal of the buildings now constituting the city of Washington to Chicago. 2. On free drinks, their origin, history, purpose, and influence. 3. On a curious fluid known as drinking water, observed in other parts of the world, but entirely unknown in Chicago. 4. On virtue, its own reward, as exemplified in the lives and adventures of the Chicago police. 5. On the various smells to be observed in Chicago, with pungent experiments. 6. On the exact trigonometrical measurement of a corner in grain. 7. On the feasibility of working an elevator entirely by whiskey power. Mr. Punchinello has prepared 49 other papers on different scientific subjects, including pugilism, baseball, the velocipede, female suffrage, and lake navigation, and he now awaits an invitation from Chicago to come on with his largest drum and his most melodious trumpet. He is aware of the general impression among the children of the West that they already know everything. He hastens to assure them that they labor under the most hideous of delusions. A midsummer reading of Shakespeare. It must have been in fly time that Shakespeare wrote, "When we have shoe-flied off this mortal coil." A dead beat to the windward. Mr. Ashbury of Cambria fame. The fishery question. 13.jpg, 87k. Some trouble with regard to the Gulf fisheries appears to be anticipated, and loud calls are being made upon government by the fishermen, who demand that immediate steps be taken for securing their rights. The unmasterly inactivity of President Grant, in the matter, is considered by the fishermen as indicating a want of purpose. They are also very much chagrined with the government for sending out to the fishing banks a dispatch boat bearing the inappropriate name of Frolic. There is a levity about this quite out of keeping with the serious character of the question, and it is doubtful whether the fishermen would not prefer a fight on the banks to a frolic. Although the government appears to flounder sadly in the mudbanks of this fishery question, still there is some hope that coercive measures may yet be taken for restraining the Dominion fishermen from having everything on their own hook. Rumor has it that the Monitomian Tonoma, Captain Schofield, is awaiting orders for a cruise to the troubled waters. This will doubtless prove to be a very summary and complete way of settling the difficulty, inasmuch as a few broadsides from the huge thunderer referred to would kill every fish upon the banks, and blacken each particular fisherman into an Othello with an occupation gone. The Canadian fishermen, of course, would suffer equally with those of our own shores. They are a light-hearted people, though, are these Canadians, fond of music and dancing, and they would doubtless find consolation for their troubles by addressing the skipper of the Miantonoma in a grand Mazzanillo strain, chorused with Schofield "Don't Bother Us." 14.jpg, 193k, of mythology. Mythology is the term by which the ancient Greek or Roman used to distinguish his religion from the rival religions of other and heretical pagans. Just as orthodoxy, according to Dean Swift, means mydoxy and heterodoxy, the doxy of other people, so the pious Roman used to speak of mythology as the only genuine religion, the mythologies of other men being cheap and worthless counterfeits of the real article. The classic mythology had a large and varied assortment of deities, from which every man could select a supply to suit himself. Thus the lawyer could place a bust of Mercury, the god of chicanery, in his office, and so secure the patronage of the god and save the expense of a tin sign announcing his profession. The editor could dedicate his paper to the service of Janus, the two-faced deity, and thus pursue his business without periling his reputation for religious consistency. The advantages of this sort of thing need hardly be enlarged upon. We propose to give easy and familiar descriptions of the more important gods of classic mythology, for the benefit of our younger readers. We therefore begin without further delay, with the chief deities of Olympus, the celestial Tammany Hall of the period. The Olympians formed a sort of ring which governed the entire celestial and infernal world, and as they were the only judges of elections, they retained the power undisturbed. Jupiter. This individual was a jolly, good-tempered, old Olympian who lived in great terror of his wife, Juno, and was sadly addicted to surreptitious beer and undignified flirtations with the female servants. He was fond of disguising himself, and staying out late at night in search of adventures. It is difficult, however, to believe that he really disguised himself as a swan, in order to present his bill to Leda. The story, doubtless, originated in the fact that Juno called him an old goose, to which he very probably replied that other women appreciated him better, and that Leda, for example, would be more apt to call him a duck or a swan, than a degraded and abject goose. So, too, in regard to the story that he disguised himself as a bull, and in that eccentric costume made love to Europa. One legend expressly states that he pretended to be an Irish bull. This is, of course, a figurative way of saying that he proclaimed himself an Irish gentleman, a descendant of Brian Boru and a graduate of Trinity College. Europa was probably a child's nurse, and the fascinating Irish gentleman was accustomed to meet her in the park, and enliven her with his national witticisms. One can easily believe that he made love to Dani by throwing a shower of gold in her lap, a story which shows that women were much the same in ancient times as they are today. There is no denying that Jupiter was a sad old dog, and that he would have been killed a dozen times by insane husbands had he not been immortal. However, he was pretty severely punished by Juno, who was the leader of the Olympian Saurosis, and who used to hear of all his disreputable flirtations from the respectable spinsters of that wild goddess association, and would keep him awake night after night, with curtain lectures on the subject. Jupiter was, ex officio, the chairman of the Olympian Society, and he once crushed a rebellion of the Titans, who were the roughs of the period, by locking them out of the Olympian Hall, and shying all sorts of heavy missiles, such as charters, a Greek word signifying a mountainous burden, out of the upper chamber at them. He had a large number of relatives whom he placed in all the fat offices, and though there was some dissatisfaction with his government, it was generally agreed that he was better fitted for his position than any one of the Titans would have been. No one knows what was the ultimate fate of Jupiter. He was, however, dethroned by the Emperor Constantine, and was never afterwards heard of, though it is well known that the inhabitants of certain inland counties of New Jersey still believe in his existence, and have not yet heard of Constantine's reformation. Imperial conundrum with an irreconcilable answer. Why is Paris the greatest place in the world for the prosecution of newspaper enterprises? Because there all newspaper enterprises are prosecuted. A hanging that ought to be played out. That practiced by the hanging committee of the Academy of Design. Apropos of Theodora Thomas concerts. Come into the garden, Maudlin. To our readers. Many complaints have been made to the publishers of Punchinello regarding the price asked for the paper by newsdealers in some parts of this city, as well as elsewhere, viz., 15 cents a single copy. Now, the price of a single copy of Punchinello is 10 cents, and no newsman has a right to charge more for one, seeing that his profit on it at the regular price is equal to that made by him on any other illustrated paper. However gratifying it may be to us to know that our paper is considered by dealers as being more valuable than any other one of a similar class, it has become necessary for us to correct the abuse referred to. The best way of effecting this is for our readers to send in their subscriptions directly to this office. To every subscriber who sends in $4, Punchinello shall be sent for 1 year, together with a splendid premium, particulars respecting which will be found on last page of this number. By following this arrangement, readers will get the paper regularly at their respective addresses, and will avoid the possibility of being imposed on. 15.jpg, 248K, 16.jpg, 280K. ****** End of the Project Gutenberg ebook Punchinello, Volume 1, No. 10. The 4th of June, 1870 ********. Updated editions will replace the previous one, the old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start. Full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works. By using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg, you agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Trademark Symbol Electronic Works 1.0. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the Foundation or PGLAF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg, 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. 1.e.5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. 1.e.6. You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, if you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg trademark symbol website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7. Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8. You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works provided that you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing, or by email, within 30 days of receipt that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. 1.e.9. If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f1.f.1 Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2 Limited warranty, disclaimer of damages, except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the Foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3 Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4 Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5 Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6 Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, and C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers, including obsolete, old, middle-aged and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg trademark symbol's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg trademark symbol and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a non-profit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's IN or Federal Tax Identification Number is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, UT 84116, 801-596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment, including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways, including checks, online payments and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. Electronic Works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the US unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, we do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg trademark symbol, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks.